big with mine. So at least you can kind of get into the it's weird. You have that weird section in the 60s where there's not much. Then you get 60s, 70s, get some 80s, 90s. There's a bunch like 91, 93. Those are all, and then 99.
Yeah, hockey does that. I feel like the weird numbers have been coming back lately. A lot of the younger players go 80s, 90s.
Yeah, they're going higher.
Yeah.
I always liked 87 and 89 were my like 80s numbers, like Alexander McGillney.
Yeah,
89. And then 93 was because that was my street number, but I went with that. Like Peter Nedved had that, and a bunch of fucking guys. All right, here we go. Episode 32. You start that baby.
Yep, we're good to go here.
Yeah. All right, welcome to the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast, episode 32. O.J. Simpson for you.
Oh, there we go. I said Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know why he's the first one.
Magic Johnson. We got a lot of guys with 32, but yeah, OJ for you up there in Buffalo with all your snow and your former players that turn out to be murderers, right? Your murderers row.
We are undefeated in murder trials.
Yes, you are. That is true. That is true. But yes, we are here. And as you can tell probably by now, Aaron isn't here with us. He could not make it tonight. He is going on a trip tomorrow and has to pack. I believe his wife, Heidi, probably said, none of that nonsense talking comic books. You're actually going to help me pack. Yeah, right now my kids are sick, and we record a little bit later. I mean, it's 9 o'clock right now, but everybody's asleep. My kids, it's tough to try to get them in bed before midnight, and when they're downstairs screaming and yelling, like it's like in the afternoon,
quiet, you think something awful is happening in the house.
Yeah, and it's weird. Right now, recording, it's almost eerie. With this whole deal, and you said it did snow in Buffalo, and it's funny because you had to plow out your deal, and it snowed a foot. And I just want everybody to realize throughout the country, you said two things to me: it snowed a foot, and you had to shovel when you got back from work, because most people, when it snows a foot, they don't go to work, especially at different parts of the country. They're like, a foot. I remember I had a friend of mine that moved to Pennsylvania from North Carolina, and the first time it snowed, I'm telling you, the snow didn't even get up past the curb. And he thought everything should be shut down.
Oh yeah, that was like in Maryland when I lived in Maryland. It was the same way. If there was the threat of snow the next morning, we weren't going to school.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So crazy. Pennsylvania's a weird kind of in-betweener.
Yeah,
some people.
I think it depends where you live. My aunt in New York, they're kind of a little like Maryland.
That's weird. And then if you get further towards Pittsburgh or up, Pennsylvania's a weird state overall. But we're here to talk about a bunch of books. Obviously, we have some big books this week. Obviously, we're talking about Marvel books.
I think this is one of the Marvel weeks I've most looked forward to coming into things.
Well, I will tell you that when we were talking about what's coming up and things like that, I was looking forward to it as well, because of the fact that we don't have a lot of books. We actually added a book in with what we were going on. And it's funny because we added in Dead Man Logan. We weren't going to talk about that. We never even talked. I didn't even know it was coming out.
Yeah, I did Old Man Logan as a quick pick once, and that's all we've ever really mentioned.
And so what happens with the way we do this podcast, since we do it on Wednesday, and Marvel did not listen to us pleading for the review copy so far. But so what happens is I rarely know what's coming up. And so this week I actually have a list of what's coming up next week, which we started off doing that. But since we didn't do it, I end up coming home from work, and then I look to see what books, and we kind of get a little idea, but I don't know the full, scope of the books coming out. So something like a Dead Man Logan kind of does, would be kind of go between the cracks. And, you said that you might do it as a quick book. And I said, well, I figured I was going to read it. I was interested in reading it. I figured, hey, if it's okay, let's do it. And it was okay. I actually liked it. It ends up being one of my favorites because there's some disappointing books this week. And the disappointing ones to me were the ones, the one, which is Ironheart #1. It really upset me because I was looking forward to that book for a month.
That could win awards for maybe the ugliest cover of a comic book I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I was looking so forward to that book, and then it got here, and we'll obviously be talking about it. I'm looking at that cover. What's with that long neck?
I know she looks like she turned into half giraffe. Like
I think she is a giraffe. Yes, but we're gonna start as we usually do when it comes out. We're gonna start with Spider-Man. You take it away, Brent.
Yes, The Amazing Spider-Man, number 10, written by Nick Spencer. Art team of Roberto Ramos, Michelle Bandini, Victor Elabanza, Michelle Bandini again, doing something else. Edgar Delgado, Eric Arachnia. Let's see here. Spider-Man wraps up the Gilded Thieves storyline in a way I almost actually liked. Mary Jane takes a bit more focus this issue, filling us in on their reunion and a few other things that were bugging me in the background. Then Nick Spencer goes back to continuity past to clear a few things up, while possibly providing a big hint as to who this big bad might be. So let's discuss.
Yeah, and throughout this, a lot of people that we're talking about in the Get Fresh crew, beep boop, or as Eric wanted to call them, the Fresh Start crew, have been talking, and a lot of people like this book a lot more than me and you.
Yeah, I'm hot and cold on it.
Yeah, we are hot and cold, and I think that the whole deal is hot and cold. And this issue, to me, kind of came off as if it would be one of those cold issues because what's going on, but I think that when Nick Spencer just kind of, buckles down and gives us some good character work and things like that, then I'm in. And because I was into this, I actually liked it. I actually had a good time reading it.
Even the humor in some spots was making me laugh. And I was like, oh, I think
what's going on?
More than I have in a while.
He's been beating you over the head, so much you're getting punch drunk. I also like the pacing of it. I thought that the back and forth between Mary Jane in the lookups group, going back and forth with Pete and Black Cat there with the Thieves Guild, I thought was done very well. Like you said, it ties into some past continuities, not continuities, but past stories, getting them set. And I really liked it. I had a lot of fun, even to the point.
Thieves Guild also doesn't. The one thing I'm not a huge fan of is it doesn't seem like they go away. You know what I'm saying? Like they're around now, and kind of a thing. So it's a little quickly wrapped up as far as like them just getting out of town. And I'll tell you, when we get to that end in the whisper, I drove myself crazy trying to read those couple words and see what she was saying. I took a picture on my phone. I'm zooming in.
You're like Eric.
Worked. I don't know what it does still, but I give it an effort.
And with this, you do have Mary Jane who's at that lookup deal, and if you remember, she just got there to kind of first meeting, and they didn't really get her there to participate per se. It was just to get there and see how things are going, see how it is. But they ask her then, before we leave, do you have anything to say? And she's like, well, yeah, kind of. And even says, why not? And goes into it. And actually, for everybody wants Peter and Mary Jane to be together.
Yeah.
So when you throw them in this book, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, there's Nick Spencer just doing that for to get people to like him and things like that. This explains a lot, and actually is a really good
detail.
Yeah, and really good, and even goes to the point where Mary Jane says basically that she, her and Peter, she loves Peter, but it kept not working. Things got in the way, but in the meantime, hot and cold, just like we are with the book.
Yeah,
but one of the things that she had was that she always felt like Peter should be with somebody that's a hero, with somebody that's more, in his life, things like that, in the superhero life,
can relate to him just that little bit better than she can.
And so it's good because as this is going on, he is in a team up with Black Cat, obviously, and X. So they're doing that. So it works out going back and forth real well. And one of the things that I really liked, though, was when she even spells out that, I was working for Tony Stark at one point. So I kind of was in that life myself. So it felt better. I was on even ground, but now I'm not. So I'm struggling a little. And then by the end, though, you have Jarvis who says basically, you're in his life because he needs you. The
Yeah.
things that he
He
does,
needs that.
yeah,
That's
the
what he
strength
needs.
that he
Yes.
has is from you. You're indispensable. She says that, or he says that to her, and it really was nice. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty much the
And
whole
and I
deal.
like it too, because then it also like clicks for her, and it's
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
pushed as a more forced thing. It's
No,
like she
and
doesn't
I'm telling
agree
you,
with
it
them.
clicked
And
with me.
yeah,
So,
I
so
really
you
liked it too. That
I
was
loved it. Yeah,
that
I'm
was
telling
cool,
you,
you
the
know?
stuff like we said, the Thieves Guild, you know, it's
And
kind
she
of
even it's a throwaway line, really, if you're not looking for it. And I've been looking for it for a
yeah,
while. So when she mentions like how they kind of got back together at Flash's funeral,
yeah,
what was what she alludes to there. And I was like, really, that's kind of all I needed. You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah,
you know, that emotion brings people back together again. And
yep.
you know, that's just very believable and a good way
Yeah, and
for them to be
I
back.
really liked it, and also just her saying and pushing the fact, like, look, I was in the, I had to have the spotlight, even as she's doing this, she's kind of liking the spotlight. You can tell that
Yeah.
she's digging, talking, everybody's away, you know, listening with bated breath.
Yeah,
There,
she's the next model. I mean,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
used to soaking
and
up.
that's, and she says, I'm used to spotlight where you have Peter, and she doesn't say, you know, Peter, she's just like, you know,
Yeah.
my man,
Yeah.
he's a guy who just wants to save people. He doesn't do what he does for the fame, the fortune, and things like that. And even almost like, unfortunately, because now he has
I
no
know,
money.
right? Yeah,
But
we live
he
in this
just,
little studio.
he just wants to save people. And as this is going on, you do have Black Cat and Peter, you know, fighting the Thieves Guild. And it's funny too, because at the point where you have Felicia and she's yelling, like, this isn't what you need to do. Like, this isn't stuff that the Thieves Guild usually does here, and yelling to Peter, like, he even, like, when they get caught, that we saw the last issue, like, oh yeah, I want to introduce you to these.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, this is good. Well, Felicia, you know, you have paid your dues. Your dues are in. You pay. We got to kill Spider-Man. He's
Yeah.
not supposed to be
My
here.
favorite line that really made me laugh out loud is when she mentioned Spider-Man. You know, you brought this Spider-Man here, and he's like, "Listen,
Yeah.
I heard you say Spider-Man without."
And it's funny too. She gets mad. Black Cat gets mad because she's there, and it's Odessa who says that, the leader, and she's like, "Man, you brought that Spider-Man." She's like, "Listen, there's a hyphen there," and he's like, "I know, you know, it's the tiniest little pause that you have to give," and then they just start fighting, and I love it too, because as this Odessa says, like, you know, the Thieves Guild, we abhor violence, and he's like, yeah, this guy's really abhorring violence. He's really going over with this abhorring.
My face.
Oh, he's just beating the crap out of him, and I liked it. I liked the whole deal, and I like that it's, you know, Black Cat's fighting with Peter for what's right, because they say, you know, she says by the end of this Odessa, I understand we're the Thieves Guild, but this isn't like us because you're stealing things that are saving people, you know, and I get half of it. And that's the whole deal between Peter and Black Cat. He's like, half, you know, all that. But while this is going on, the Thieves Guild then in this Odessa, they open up the vault, and it starts like a black hole sucking everything in. It's like this crazy thing. And Felicia's like, if whatever.
A good line here from Spider-Man where he's like, I don't understand the point of this vault. If things go in and they can't come out, why do you want to steal
why would
anything?
you steal things and put them in there? It makes no sense. And they're going in, but he's trying to find things you know, and he's grabbing Doctor Strange stuff. He's grabbing the Iron Man helmet, but he ends up getting Miss Marvel's phone and ends up turning it on, you see, because she gets a ping. This is the whole deal too. You have Mr.
Everyone trying to figure this out.
Yeah, you have Tony Stark,
find my phone,
and Mr. Fantastic. The two smartest guys are trying to figure out where their equipment can be. And basically, it's found by Miss Marvel's GPS on her phone. She's like, I got a ping. And I just like it with Tony. This is so embarrassing. And it's really good. And so as they do that, you see then that, you know, he's like, you have Spider-Man, he has the phone up and he's like, listen, everybody's coming to kick your butts. They're going to kick your butts. This Odessa's like, okay, Thieves Guild, let's get out.
And this is where she's like, actually, ma'am, and they whisper something you can't see. And she's like, all right, mortifying. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, let's go.
She knows about this centipede creature.
Maybe? Yeah, and Maybe.
know.
Well, the thing is, they're going, and she even like rolls her eyes. Oh, mortifying. Thieves Guild, let's vanish. And they get out. But you see the other thing where, and it's the wraparound, because you have this idea where even Black Cat, through the whole thing, she's saying, Odessa, this is not the Thieves Guild way. We have a code. There's that not just an honor among thieves, but also the idea of, and if you remember how they were set up, the first thing was that guy who went to Odessa and was bragging about all the things that he can do and steal whatever. And they ended up killing him because of the fact
he didn't
that
pay
he
his
was,
price.
and also remember he was, villages were being destroyed by his things. So it's
really, the Thieves Guild only steals from thieves. They don't usually mess with the good guys.
No, and they are about, they're not about killing people or making, and so by the end, you have these thieves show up, and they show up at that, statue thing that was kind of where they went in when Peter and Black Cat were there. And they kind of leave like a superstitious type, a bunch of money and say, man, they can take, we're going to give this. And you see Odessa like smiling that this seems to have been her plan all along, that they're setting up a thing like they're almost like now the patron saints of, these thieves. So people are giving tributes.
They scared the thieves straight by messing with the hero. I think almost what her game plan was.
How basically like, man, we better throw this money here because they can take down the X-Men and the Avengers and all these, and the Fantastic Four and whatever. So they do that, and she's just smiling, and it's like a kind of a nice wraparound thing of her. That's how they're going to get money, whatever. And we'll see if we see them later on.
See what their big plan is.
The thing is, though,
sad if they never came back. Like that's a good ending.
They have to come back just because of, like you said,
feels like
that whisper. That whispering seems to be setting up something. But I think that they are better than they are putting on. And I do like it though, that because when the smoke clears and the Thieves Guild, they get out, Peter and Black Cat are just sitting there, and all of the heroes show up and they're just laying there on top of each other.
So then like, this isn't what it looks like.
Yeah. And then it ends with basically, Black Cat and Peter sitting there, Peter's Spider-Man costume. And she says, I kind of a little upset, and he's like, oh, what's going on? I know, Doc Ock, he was doing some crazy stuff when he was made, and
she finally believes all that because it took her a while to wrap her mind around that.
And the big part is, and there's some feels here that she starts crying at one point, basically says, no, it's not that. Me and you, we had a thing, and I do love you, but I don't know who you are. I can't remember. I don't remember who you actually are underneath the mask. And he's like, I ended up telling a lot of people, the secret, and they kind of had to do things.
Yeah, that goes back to, so he's alluding to Civil War there when he revealed his identity with Tony, and then it all got taken away with his deal with Mephisto. To bring back Aunt May, but his marriage to Mary Jane vanished.
So
he also got his identity back in that.
Yep, he got his identity back, and I'm sitting there, and he's there looking, and it's like a 4-panel deal while he's just kind of sitting there. She's upset. He looked back, and he's like, Felicia, hey, I'm like, don't do it, Peter. I'm telling you, there's the worst. And this happens sometimes at DC as well. And it was like when the Flash told Mina, who am I? Don't do it. Things they never go right. And he did. He showed her. He took the mask, and he's like, my name's Pete. And he's like, you know what? I please call me Spider-Man still, because that's kind of cooler than Peter. I really liked it. And while this is going on, and they hug, and now it ties back into that whole deal where I'm waiting for him to go back to Mary Jane, and a lot of drama, a lot of things starting.
That's what I was waiting for. Don't tell her. Don't.
Yeah. And he told her. He went back, and he's like, yeah, you know what? I was hanging out with, Felicia, Black Cat, and you have Mary Jane. It's like, oh, you mean your ex? And he's like, yeah, well, she was upset because she didn't remember who I was. So I told her, and, we're just friends who aren't doing anything. She's like, I'm not jealous. And then says back to that tie around line that I know I'm indispensable. And that's where we see Centipede Guy, who is angry ends up
Very
punching the wall, has like some sort of, you know, thing with Felicia and Peter there that we already saw, and then ends with, you know, it should just be me and you. But yeah, who you can talk
I
about
don't know.
that.
I really kind of think it would be Mephisto. Who else would be so angry about,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yeah.
deal that he formerly made with Peter now being broken down and
Yep.
chipped away at, that he's back together with Mary
Yeah.
Jane, and someone he cares about being Black Cat knows his identity
Yep.
again. And
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it is as well.
I mean, it feels too obvious, which is why I'm leaning away from that being the guest. You know, I'm also never right about these things, but
I'm not either. I'm not either.
other than that, you know, I had no other clue other than Mephisto. It doesn't look like him really, so.
And again, if it is, and the thing is, my big thing that I always make Eric laugh, and this isn't even just on podcasts, it's anytime we're talking about a comic book, whenever a hero reveals his identity, I always tell him that it's 3 issues from there, and whoever knows that identity is dying.
Yeah.
And it could be that, you know, if this is Mephisto, he might just go after Black Cat just to be like, you know what, this is bullcrap. He shouldn't have told you, and I'm going to take care of you. Though I doubt that she'll be killed. But who knows? But I always make the guess.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. So I do think that this is going to lead to her in some trouble with even if it isn't Mephisto, if it's just Centipede Guy, as we call him.
Still a lot of pots in the oven in this series here.
Yeah, but I really liked it. I thought that there was some feels, there was some, and that's one of the things that me and you have been complaining about since Nick Spencer started this, is the fact that we're not getting a lot of fun, and we never thought the jokes were hitting. These jokes, it's almost like he dialed them back, but made them work better. They aren't pop culture things that are just thrown out there out of nowhere.
And they weren't so explained. Like I always feel like he went the extra step explaining them the joke, and he didn't do any of that.
And these jokes were part of the character's background. They were part. It's just the Spider-Man without the hyphen. That was funny. And then he had that little extra thing with Peter saying it, which made it even more funny. So yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. I'm going to give it an 8.5. And again, the art has never been the problem for us with this book. It's always been the humor or lack thereof, and you know, the story going back and forth, and you know, like you said, hot and cold. So yeah, I'm going 8.5. I could even go as high as a 9. I liked it that much, and I hope that this is the start of us just loving Spider-Man, because that's what I've been waiting for since we started this podcast. To really like
he's finding his groove. I hope he's officially found his groove. You know.
Yeah, I hope so too. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm gonna match. I'm gonna go 8.5. I just really enjoyed it from the first page. It wasn't something I anticipated being real excited about going in, and I think that, you know, helps my score be maybe a little higher than maybe some other people would that have currently been reading it and digging it all along. But you know, I like the Thieves Guild is out of the picture. We can deal with maybe some of the other things I've been looking forward to or waiting for, and you know, the clue with that big bad we've all been waiting for the reveal of. He's still in the background, and I really just dug all the Mary Jane stuff. So 8.5.
I did too. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. The next one is. And my problem is as I get ready for this podcast, I do the books in the order that I think we're going to talk about them. And so I start with Amazing Spider-Man, which was my favorite issue of the week. And then I kind of had some downfall from there. I like to end with something that I enjoyed, so that when we start the podcast, I can be excited for it and kind of pretend that I'm not a miserable guy that I am all day long. But yeah, I didn't do that. I should have saved Amazing Spider-Man for the end. But the next book is Fantastic Four #3, written by Dan Slott. Or 4, is it? Yes, it is 4. Why did I put 3? Fantastic Four #4.
It's weird to say Fantastic Four #4.
Fantastic Four #4, written by Dan Slott, art by Stefano Caselli, Nico Leone, Eric Arcinielinga, VC Chris Elapolopoulos.
I know these are.
Isn't that Uncle
Jesse? That's a new letterer. They got a new hire over at VC's.
Is that Uncle Jesse's cousin in Full House? Isn't that him? The Fantastic Four are back home and face the mighty power of the Fantastics. Yeah, this issue felt like Dan Slott wanted to throw shade over at the Terrifics at DC. That was throwing shade at the Fantastic Four, and was told to get things in place and waste an issue so we can get to the big wedding in December. And this is pretty much a filler issue. It gets them to Earth. That's all it does, and gets them,
in
you
a
know,
very long-winded way.
yeah, and gets them living on Yancey Street, which, you know, kind of had to eventually be addressed because the Baxter Building was bought by Peter Parker and then lost
sold
by
in
Peter Parker.
bankruptcy.
Yeah, so it's not there. So those seem to be the two things put into place. In the meantime, I do think that you had, you know, Dan Slott poking fun at the Terrifics book that Jeff Lemire's writing over at DC. And if you aren't reading the DC books like we are, that was the Fantastic Four of DC and this new age of heroes type of deal. And when that came out, we said it was, you know, we get the idea. You had the Fantastic Four of DC, but then when the Fantastic Four actually came back, which we have now, there was no need for it. But both books are not doing that great in my mind.
They're about on equal footing.
Yeah, this Fantastic Four book just seems to be waiting for the wedding with Ben and Alicia. And once that's over,
and then it'll get to business.
Yeah, maybe we can get down to business, because this Fantastics there, they are fighting the Wrecking Crew. You even have like what looks like a little bit of amalgams of the Terrifics, and it goes back and forth. But yeah, they're there. They're fighting the Wrecking Crew as the Fantastic Fours and everybody else are going to start teleporting back to Earth. And if you remember, the whole setup is that they made the deal that you know, Mr. Fantastic could bring the whole family to fight the big battle last couple issues, and the big family was pretty much everybody in the multiverse, you know. And so they have that, and this just takes too long.
Yeah, listen, Dan Slott is told to do a like throwaway issue. I have no problem with that, but he makes it the most long-winded throwaway issue I've ever read.
Yeah, and you have goodbyes to people that, especially me, I'm telling you, goodbyes to nothing, because I don't know. I didn't read FF. I didn't. So, and I didn't know. And really, it's been so long. So you're having these goodbyes to these characters that you don't care about. And then also having, you know, some little things where Spider-Man's there and he's like, hey, you know, speaking of the Baxter Building, he gets teleported away. The big joke is, and again, I don't need these kind of almost like fourth wall breaking jokes with Spider-Man with Logan. Hey, are you the real Logan? Or are you the guy who's back, or the one from the past or the future? We ain't talking about it, bub. I don't need this. I don't need this jokiness. And then you have Ghost Rider.
He does the same thing to him.
Are you the real one? Are you the new guy who's with the Avengers? Don't want to talk about it. Oh, here we go. And just get back to Earth.
It's weird because Dan Slott never wrote Spider-Man that way when he wrote him for basically 10 years. It's weird he writes him this way, and it's just a joke in this issue.
Yeah, it's just a joke. And while they're doing this, you have Reed and the family. They're going back to Earth, but Dragon Man and a bunch of them are still going to stay as FF. They're still going to be the Future Foundation. They're still going to go and explore. They're going to do things, whatever. I don't need this. I want the Fantastic Four. And I know, like we said, we keep saying it each week, that fresh start is kind of only a thing, I think, to me and you anymore.
It's a name only.
Yeah, it is. And so I understand that I'm not going to be getting what I really want, but for a book this big and huge, there are people who don't read any Marvel but will be getting the Fantastic Four book because it's been so long, and it has not been big. It feels so small. And this issue to me makes it even smaller and pretty much points out, hey, by the way, we're going to have a wedding issue coming up in December. Just wait till that. Because, I mean, they go back to Earth. They finally get back there. And you have, here we are, the Fantastic Four's back, and all these people
conveniently land right in the one spot they need to be for this issue to work.
And so they end up with this whole deal with this other team, the Fantastics, are fighting the Wrecking Crew
the whole time, because I thought there were going to be 6 of them. I thought that was part of the
I know
cliche.
I did too. I was like, I don't know, whatever. It's because they're fighting it. And the funny thing is, the joke is there a joke? The joke is that they're phony. They have a press agent who, in the roundabout way, but then Dan Slott has to pull it back at the end, because what happens is and Johnny, he's the one who's like going out like, Wrecking Crew, all right, the team's back, let's go. and they're getting in the way of this other team. And the other team has these people cheering for him. Go Fantastiques, go Fantastic. And I'm just like, really? Like this isn't that fun. And so what they do, they end up finding out, and Val is the one, and there is kind of a little bit of humor with Val in my mind, a little subtle thing in the background, because Val figures it out, because she's like, this is supposed to be their first appearance of this Fantastiques. How do they have signs already? Yeah. And how do they have this?
After her dad basically tells her to stay out of it.
Yeah, says that she doesn't have superpower.
Yeah.
She's like, man, I thought being smart was a superpower. And so she goes, and there's a news crew, and she gets the thing, and she's like, you know what? Something smells fishy here. How do they have these signs, whatever? And I do like that Reed seems to, and it's classic Reed, where I don't think he had figured it out. He kind of did at one point, because he says, man, how do they know the names? And so, but when Val's like, they have all this, and they have the, Reed's like, yeah, good going, kid. Way to figure it out. I'm like, you didn't know half of it there, Reed. But yeah, so they end up showing that this Fantastiques is a made up, they're a made up team. That is, but the Fantastiques, the team
almost
itself,
like they're trying to get this reality TV thing off the ground.
Yeah, and they wanted to replace the Fantastic Four, which was gone. Now they're back, so it's kind of like, and again, the little bit of a joke is, hey, look, DC, you want to have this, the Terrifics? Well, the real goods are back, so move aside. But the issue is that pretty much, I would guess that the people listening to this podcast right now, 10% are at the most are still reading that Terrifics book, because it's garbage, as the French say, and it's not good. And so why are you wasting an entire issue for me to make fun of a book that I have to talk about once a month on our other podcast and I hate? You don't need to do this. Really, just let that book fail on its own. Yes. There's no reason.
It's doing very well all by itself.
Yeah. It's doing well, not doing well. And so, you find out it's a ruse. But at the end, the thing I said about
I rolled my eyes so hard, you might have heard it in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, really. That and you running out of gas with your snowblower. You're cursing. We're not allowed to curse on this. So they have the idea, though, that at the end, well, the Fantastics team didn't know that this was a setup. I'm like, why are you pulling that back? Why are you making it so that
you just ruined it even more?
Yeah, why are you making it that somehow you're going to bring this team back or something because they're not guilty of knowing this? I'm like, really? Because then they're friends. They're shaking hands. Like,
Johnny and the ice guy have a going on there with their handshake. I was like, come on,
please. And then the big deal of the Val gets to show that she is going to have a place on the team, even though her superpower is just being very smart.
Yeah, smarter than her dad, he says.
Yeah, and then they're talking. They have the press are there, and they're talking about all this stuff. But now we get to what we are on the last couple pages,
and this art change is not good.
Yeah, no. But I like when you have Ben shows up in the Fantastic Four car, the hover car, and I like that. I'm like, okay, that's kind of the fun I wanted, but just comes and says, hey, because now finally, Reed realizes that they don't have the Baxter building. They can't go there, so they need somewhere to live, and they end up going with Ben, and he's like, you can live on Yancey Street, no problem. We'll all live there. Alicia's there. In the meantime, you had it earlier where you did have Alicia and Ben, hanging out with Franklin. Franklin went with Ben, and
a big hug.
Yeah, big hug and stuff like that. But there really isn't that much of that, really going on and stuff. So it ends, and it's such a throwaway issue to me. And then and then in the whole deal, you had the shade being thrown at the Terrifics book over at DC. And then at the end, you have basically the 650th issue with the wedding, which then throws shade at Tom King and Batman. That little bit of like, we're serious. We're going to have a wedding. We're not going to bait you into this.
They did it too.
And it's them too. I know, with Mr. and Miss. Yeah. So but it is kind of the both ways. But yeah, by the end, I was not that interested. I just want to get to this wedding issue. And then the next issue after that is when I will really start to kind of get a little mad if this book doesn't pick up, because this should be one of the best books that we talk about.
Just tell a story with a decent villain.
Four.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, that's all we need. That's all we need, and we're not getting it. But
what even made me extra angry is when he's like, and he tells the dragon guy, he's like,
yeah,
keep an eye out for whatever her name was.
I know.
Oh, I'm like, no, don't you
dare. And he's like, I know we will. That the lady that they fought that just let them,
we
walk
all
over
so much we forgot her name already.
We forgot her name, and also she was defeated by only having one transport to get out. That was all it was. We only have one escape.
She was afraid to be stuck away from home.
And that was what it was. She was homesick. That was her eternal weakness. But yeah, when they said that, I'm like, I bet we're gonna see her again. I'm like, I don't want to. I'd like to take that bet.
I'll skip those issues.
Yeah, really. I'm not gonna look. I'll close my eyes. But yeah, I'd give this a 6. The art changed. The art at the beginning I liked, and then that art change was a little down. Again, I want to be positive. I like Val a lot. I think that she, got a little spotlight, which I didn't mind. But everything else was just pure filler to get to this wedding. That's all it was. Get them on Earth and show Alicia again with Ben, and off we go. There you go. And there's nothing else to it. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm going to be I'm going to stay at a 5.5 here. I'm not going to nudge it up to a 6 because I have some other books I liked a little more than this that I'll probably throw a 6 at later. Yeah. But even the beginning where Val is saying her goodbye to the dude that's all red, and her dad kind of like rushes her out of there, makes her feel like a jerk. I was like, that's a little weird. Like that's not a good family.
And there was even a weird thing there when they were saying goodbye, and he comes over and he's like, let's cut this short. And like, Dad, why don't you like him? No, it's not that. It's just I'm afraid of how you are with him, but I love you. And I'm like,
you act like a dummy, basically.
It really felt weird, though. The whole deal, like it was really like it was butchered up, that scene. And
because I never really got the idea she acted like a dummy around him.
No, well, again, this is the thing. I'm coming into this. How the heck do I know?
No,
this is right. You didn't set anything up. If you're going to do this, use some of this time. Really don't have
using in this issue. None of it's to really get the point across that Val acts dumb around this boy that her dad gets bugged.
And so with that, the heck with this lady who's homesick, the villain. Why didn't you just have him, give us some character work so I know what you're hitting at there? But yeah, everything's just kind of thrown at you, and to me, like I said, it almost seems as if Dan Slott's like, he doesn't care too much. He's making some jokes. This isn't important to him. You just have to get to the wedding. So if it's not important to him, in my mind, it ain't important to me.
No.
So it just kind of was like, I
can't give it that 6-ish saying it's okay. It's just below that. It's a 5.5. Especially with that art.
I'm a positive fella. Is what I've been told. So I'm telling you, 6 in this podcast. It's like a 5 at the other.
We haven't been celebrating the art on this book at all since it started. So it's
and that's I've even
and everything else.
I've spelled out that that's the one thing that's really impressed me throughout doing this, all these 32 episodes is the art is really strong. I rarely have a time where I don't like the art. And this art to me with that change and things like that, it just wasn't anything. I just didn't really even think about it. It was just like, okay, here we go. Oh, there's an art change.
It's just so weird. They get one of their better artists. They have Rubik to do the covers, and then they just kind of get whoever to do the insides.
Throw it in, and again, and it just that doesn't feel like you're telling me that it's a big book, and it is. It's huge.
It should be.
It should be. Well, we're gonna go to your quick books now, and what do you have for us this week?
Well, I got it easy on the fans this week. We're just going to do one. I'll catch everyone up on the rest of Spider-Verse issues that came out this week, next week. But yeah, we got Vault of Spiders 2 is the one I haven't covered yet. I was actually kind of looking forward to this one because we get some Spider-Man's extended origin. Yeah, we get some extended origin in here, but we got writers of Cullen Bunn. He does the Spider-Man's one with Mark Bagley, Andrew Hennessy, and Chris Sotomayor. And then Ryan North, David A. Williams, Andrew Crossley on the second one, Jeffrey Thorne, Todd Harris, and Andrews Mosa on the third story. The Vault of Spiders doesn't have many redeeming qualities this week. with some stories that look like they were pulled out of the what do you say? Le
Garbage.
The Le Garbage bin
Garbage
of
truck.
rejected ideas leading into Spider-Geddon. If you're curious about our boy Spiders-Man, this may be all you find of interest here, to be honest. And for some strange reason, I have a feeling like I've read most of that before, because some of it is those just recycled panels from that kind of extended introduction we got to him in one of the issues.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm just also losing my mind, deja vu type thing going on there. I don't know. I swear I read at least half the panels in that story, though, before. So this was a hard pass for me as far as Vault of Spiders go. Again, it's just like a compilation book. I thought it was actually $4.99. It was not. It was only $3.99. So even Marvel knows better than to try to, tag an extra dollar on this extended page count. And the other two were, one was a Mr. Stacy, Officer Stacy Spider-Man version, and one was an Aunt May Spider-Man version.
Really?
And they were just so awful. I can't even really describe it. So don't, unless you need a Spiders-Man's fix, stay away from it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go to my QuickBooks now. We're going to do these right in a row. And I have two that came out today, and they have a common theme. That is Black Panther. And the first one's Black Panther #6. And it's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, art by Jen Bartel. And she is a fill-in artist for this one issue. And I will say right away that she is pretty good. Yeah. I actually like the art a lot in this. You didn't read this, right? What's that?
No, I didn't get around to it.
And I'll tell you, it still has the problems that we think that it had all along, is that you don't get a lot of Black Panther. And Black Panther continues without any Black Panther. We do get the future, I guess, Killmonger. And see, he's not happy just being an avatar, but he wants to be a god. This issue peters along for a bit while Coates throws names at the reader. And really, he's throwing a lot of names out of Black Panther lore. And if you are not a huge Black Panther fan, they're just going to come right at you and go right over your head. And make sure that everyone catches on that this is all another political allegory he is writing. But once we see that N'Jaka gets to a Clintar in the past, you have a flashback, things actually pick up, and they show that he had gotten the symbiote, and he is intent to become a god with that. And it all sets up what should be a big moment coming up. And basically, the whole idea is he sees the writing on the wall, that anytime you are the Avatar, the Black Panther, all that, you're going to have another guy who shows up and becomes that, takes your place. And he knows that Black Panther is out and about. He knows that the legend has returned. So he is taking steps to make sure that he does not get defeated and actually becomes a god. And it's not bad. But when it ends, you end up actually with probably the best couple pages that we've had in this series. So it's one of those where it's going to end up with Killmonger versus Black Panther. That makes sense in all sorts of ways. But the idea that you have a symbiote included and stuff like that, actually, finally, I got a little excited. Fill-in artist Jen Bartel does a good job, and maybe, just maybe, things will finally pick up from here. And a couple issues from now, we'll actually have it on the regular podcast. It's going to take a couple that I have to really be sold on it
right now. This is actually the first issue, like flicking through it. I have a vague interest in.
Yep. I'm telling you what, and they, it ties into the whole Clintar stuff that we got over in Venom. It really ties in to the whole deal. Now, by the end, you do end up having like a 4-page battle with no doubt. It's very quick near the end, but I actually liked it enough. I would say it's still, if you haven't been enjoying Black Panther, this might be something. Can I have a new rating called Give It a Peek? Like you're flipping through it. If you're at the comic store, I know that I shouldn't say that. Don't use the comic store as a library, but really look through it like Brandon's doing, and you may actually be like, you know what? I like it. And I want Black Panther to succeed. I love the character. I love the character more than a lot of people do. And I think that that's one of the problems is he's not, the movie was huge.
Yeah.
But the comic just never really hits with a lot of people. And I really thought this fresh start was going to be the way to get it going. And the iron's hot. You're going. and it just I don't like this series at all. But this actually gives me hope that maybe, you know, we're through a first arc. Now we go to the next, and maybe that will pick up a bit. So it's a peak. That's my rating, a peak.
Yeah.
The next one is Black Panther versus Deadpool #2. And if you remember, I really like that #1 issue. I really, really like it.
Forever ago.
Yeah, I know. And the problem, written by Daniel Kibblesmith and art by Ricardo Lopez Ortiz, who I'm a fan of. Black Panther versus Deadpool continues. And while this issue wasn't as good as the first, it had Deadpool with a zebra head for an arm. That's all you need. Instead of an arm, he has a zebra head. Yeah, this book is played up for last, but I still think Kibblesmith does a great job with Black Panther. A little better at points than some other writer we may have mentioned earlier. And his Deadpool is good as well. This issue, though, is just set up to get the team up Deadpool has been begging for since this miniseries started. I think some may be thrown off by Ricardo Lopez Ortiz's art. I'm a fan of it, but yeah, it's a little gritty. Sometimes it's tough to follow at certain times, but it's very bloody. It fits the story. You even have at the beginning, you have these bros, these two brothers who are like these real douchebags that are hunting in Africa. That's how, Deadpool ends up getting a zebra head as an arm, and it's crazy. But pretty much the whole series, the whole series so far has been based on the idea that the whole time Deadpool is trying to do the right thing. He is trying to, do what's right, go and get what he needs to get. And everything that he does makes it look like he is a piece of crap to Black Panther. So when he shows up with a zebra head as an arm, it's to save the zebra, even though it's a weird way of saving him. You have pretty much Black Panther say to him, well, you cut off a precious zebra's head as a joke, like you never take it. And he's like, no, it's not about that. But he really wants this team up, and it ends up that they are going to team up to save Wakanda together, it seems, at this one point. But you get the jokes. Like at one point, Black Panther tells Deadpool, you're going to stay out of Wakanda forever. And Deadpool's like, Wakanda forever? That's kind of catchy. That could catch on, like stuff like that. It's little jokes like that. But I would give it, I would give it a keep. What are the ratings?
I don't know. I buy, borrow, forget.
I would say if you read the first issue, I would still buy the second. If you haven't read the first issue, go and buy the first one first and see. But yeah, I'd still buy this. I would give it a buy. I enjoyed it, and it's got some jokes, and it's one of those you can read and just have some fun with the juxtaposition of some of the most brutal art and just bloody. Deadpool is he's a bloody mess the whole time. So yeah, it's good though. But yeah, we're going to move on though back to the regular books, and this was the book that we ended up throwing out at the last second. We decided to do it because we both enjoyed it. And what is it?
It's going to be Dead Man Logan #1, written by Ed Brisson, art team of Mike Henderson, Nolan Woodard, and VC's Corey Pettit. Last we saw of Old Man Logan was him supposedly dead at the end of his own series just last month after cutting off Maestro's head. I actually anticipated this being an old man searching for peace in the afterlife type story going down here, but Marvel seems intent on the bait and switch. So while I was initially bitter at first by the conclusion of the first issue, I was interested in where this is headed. So let's talk about why.
Yeah, and you start off, and the X-Men find, Old Man Logan. He's there up in Canada. He seems to be dead. Yeah, you get your favorite Glob there. He's there. He's so concerned there. And
he has popped in and out of the Old Man Logan story. The comic book issues. Here and there, he had a few issues he guest starred in, but. Yeah, he is far from my favorite X-Men.
Yes. And so basically he's there, like you said, he's already done his beheading there. Yeah. They grab him and they take him back to the mansion.
Maestro.
And Maestro.
Laying around.
Yep. And so they basically, I don't mind this. If it's a weird thing to think that people would not know what's going on with Logan. Like, you're going to read Dead Man Logan, but they do a good enough job that it is a setup to tell you that Logan has 12 months to live, that his healing factor's messed up, his adamantium thing, everything they go is through, you know, them like, by the way, Logan, we just did test on you and all this. And he's like, I know, but it was a good little catch up.
Yeah, and he wants no help. Like they're like, listen, we could get you help. We got some of the best minds that could get on it. He's like, no, I've accepted it. You know, I want to be with my wife, my family. Like it's time. And
yeah. And so basically, he just wants to, he says, I'm going to die in 12 months. That's fine. It is even, he's like, how long do I have? You have 12 months. Okay. And I said to you, it's funny. You have this as a 12-issue mini. So I don't know if it's each issues a month. It'd be weird for what's going on. But he goes off then. I mean, it's pretty quick. He says to Glob, hey, get my backpack. Thanks a lot. I'm going to see you later. I have things to do. He goes to the bar with no name and just starts a full-out brawl.
Yeah, this is it's all set up from this big splash page in the beginning where you see the names on his arm. He's trying to just sew up any loose ends so he makes sure this future never happens, even though, you know, the date it was supposed to happen has already passed.
But even that, this is, I like this. It's kind of a twist because he wants to get Mysterio. And the reason is he realizes whatever's going on, but he doesn't want to leave with the possibility that he could use that power in the future to do any sort of thing. So I didn't mind that.
Somebody else,
yeah. He doesn't want this to ever happen. He doesn't want Mysterio, because they even go and they give you that little background of when he thought he was saving the X-Men and ended up killing them all. That's the whole deal of his thing. And while this is going on, you have Miss Sinister at this bar. And the problem with this is it's one of those things like he ends up causing the most problems by showing up there, because she ends up reading his mind and finds out exactly what Mysterio can do. And then ends up
what he's so afraid of.
And what could the power that Mysterio actually has. And also then a guy who pretty much is a pretty tough guy. The guy's like, snitches get stitches. He doesn't tell Logan exactly, everything going on, but she reads minds and she knows now where Mysterio is.
Everything.
And
Logan
also why.
What Logan didn't want her to know.
Yeah. And then you have Glob back at the mansion.
What is going on in
porn?
this scene?
He's looking at Glob porn. It looks like he's just looking at amoebas.
I was like, we need this scene.
I know. Forge walks in and it's like, oh, yeah.
See why I don't like Glob now?
Yeah, really. I mean, really. He had a bone. He's all bones there. But yeah, Forge is like, hey, you see Logan? Tell him I want to see him. And there's a weird deal with this, because later on when Glob gets a hold of him, he's like, yeah, Forge, he wanted to tell him to, get a hold of me personally. Well, he wanted me to pass on. Okay, well, tell him. It's just a weird deal. Well, you find out because Clint shows up. Hawkeye shows up.
Because the whole Forge thing starts in the beginning of the issue, where when they're loading everybody up and taking them back home, he notices something, but we don't see what it is. And we find out by the end, but
and so you have then in Brooklyn, you have old man Logan there, and that's when Hawkeye shows up and says,
"This
hey,
is
listen,
Mysterio's old base."
And he's trying to figure out
globe here,
and Hawkeye shows up and basically says, "Listen, I can help you. I know, let me team up with you. We'll go get Mysterio together." And I like this, and it's very quick, so it's not drawn out, and it's basically Logan's like, "No, I'm doing this myself. I don't need you." And then Hawkeye just says, "Listen. Well, we can do the dance here. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to annoy you so much that you're going to tell me that I can
Which
go.
Which he's done before.
Yeah. So he's just like, let's skip to the chase.
Did you ever read Old Man Logan?
Yeah, I only read the first trade though.
Yeah, because
that's as far as I got.
They're the original one by Millar. This is who he hangs out with in that future.
I ended up only reading the first 6 issues of it and actually was the first thing I read when I got the Marvel Unlimited app. Was the first thing I went on and read that, and I really liked it. I have all those problems now.
Crazy in that book.
I have all these problems though, like things that I love. I don't have enough time to keep going because we're doing so many other things. But we find out that Mysterio is in a mental hospital.
Yep.
He's insane. He's there. And basically he might have
Being his
PTSD.
sexiest self.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is, because he is using his mind. He is really setting up this reality that is far from what it really is. But you see Miss Sinister show up and say, like, hey, come on, you know what? I'm gonna get you out of here. And he's like, I don't want to get out of there. What do you think? And it's funny too, because they keep pushing the idea, even when Logan and Hawkeye earlier, about Mysterio usually getting beat up by Daredevil or Peter, because he's in New York and all that. And he even says, he's like, I don't want to leave here. I'm safe here. I have my dream world here. Look at my hot lady here. And, it's awful.
I can make people their sexiest self.
Yeah, I'm making everybody sexy in this. I'm like Hugh Hefner in here, and I have all my Playboy bunnies. And he's like, I don't want to get beat up by Daredevil and Spider-Man. It's like, no, listen, we're going to go out because I know I've seen you're a lot more powerful than you think, and we can kill all of the X-Men now, and we can do this.
You won't have to worry about Deadpool, Wolverine, or anybody anymore ever.
And it's funny too, because she is getting a little over the top sexy with him. She is putting her bosom in his face, and I think he still just wants to stay there with that old lady.
He actually turns her down, and the only thing that gets him going is when she's like, "Well, then Logan's coming here."
Yeah, that's the last step. He doesn't even care about, I don't need to destroy the X-Men. And he's like, oh, well, I'll leave, because really, old man Logan, he's going to be here in about 5 minutes. He's going to slice you from stem to sternum. And he's like, all right, let's go. And in the meantime, you do get this a delay, because Logan wants to just go in, like a superhero, like somebody who's going in and just go through the roof, through a window. No, Hawkeye's like, no, we'll just do it by the book. This is going to be so easy. And he shows up, and this is pretty good, because he's there and this lady's there, and she's like, can I help you? It's like, yeah, Hawkeye here. I'm from the Avengers. You're not an Avenger. Yeah, I'm Hawkeye. Hot guy. And he's like, come on now. And the best is, she's like, I know the Avengers, they got Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man. Yeah, Black Widow, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Stingray. He's like, Stingray? Really? I'm Hawkeye. She's like, I don't know you, hot guy. And then it's funny. Logan's like, come on, let's get out of here, hot guy. And they go, and he's still mad. Stingray. He's like, hey, let's go. We're going to do things my way. And he's behind him. Stingray,
it hurts me, Logan.
Stingray, it hurts me. It really hurts. And it actually made me laugh a lot.
It was good.
Yeah, we do see, though, that basically Miss Sinister is pretty bad. She's pretty bad, but basically anybody who got in their way, where they went to the lockdown to get Mysterio's equipment, she killed. And Mysterio even says, you didn't have to kill these people. We could have snuck out. Then you leave no trail. And she's like, it's not fun. And then you get, again, you get a little bit of an extended scene where you have Hawkeye and Logan trying to figure out where, Mysterio has gone. There's a guy there who's, a crazy guy who wants candy to give up, the deal. Yeah, they're bribing him, and the whole deal. And it's just basically so we know that, Mysterio and Miss Sinister have enough time to get out.
Also so we know that nut allergies should be taken seriously.
Yes, because what happens is Hawkeye goes and gets this guy a candy bar, and he's like, this has nuts. What if I have an allergy? Hawkeye's like, do you? No, but that's not the point. The best thing of this whole scene to me is then Logan just says, go get him another candy bar without nuts. This is where Logan's like, let's figure out what's really going on. Tell me what's going on. And basically, this guy doesn't really have any information.
No,
Hawkeye comes back. It's the best. Hawkeye comes back and he's like, throw that candy in the trash. He got nothing. And I'm like, really? You're not even just gonna give him that? No,
I liked all the interactions here.
Yeah. And then at the end, you do see where Forge then is working out a little deal, and he heads off to the wastelands. He heads off to Old Man Logan.
Now this looks like the machine that Maestro was using at the end of their fight with Old Man Logan, where he just
again I didn't read that.
Could send Old Man Logan back.
Yeah, so that's what
I really liked it, and then it looks like Forge now has it working because he sends himself back to the wasteland.
To the wasteland. So we'll see. And it's funny too, because I guess he didn't really know what was going on. I mean, he uses it, but he certainly didn't know.
Because it does say here where he's like, let's see where we go.
Yeah.
Last known location set, which is what Maestro had that set up for in the last issue. So
and he goes,
he's just peeking at where it was all coordinated to go.
Yep.
and finds the
And then
wasteland.
he says, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
He says HE double toothpick.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, you have where Mysterio and Miss Sinister go to this undisclosed location in the Pacific Ocean. They go, it's this big, group that they're setting up that they're going to have him join, as she kind of pointed out.
Hydra.
Yeah, and it's Neo Hydra is what it is. So you
That
have
was,
this
that was a
Neo
little
Hydra.
eye rolly, but other
Yeah.
than that, I liked everything else.
Yeah, and it is kind
said-
of goofy, but yeah, it's Neo Hydra that is going to be the big bad then in this. And I'm telling you, I actually really liked it. I liked it a lot, and it shocked me because there's some things that I didn't quite get as much, like the machine. But I got it enough that I'm like, okay, Forge has a machine. It takes him to the wasteland, and he didn't really realize that's where he was going to go. It's better if you knew that was the machine, or, the whole deal. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm going to give it an 8. It's easily my second favorite issue of the week that we read and are reviewing. What would you give it?
Yeah, I'm gonna nudge it just above Spider-Man. I'm gonna go 9 for this book. I really enjoyed it, and even the art. I really didn't like it at first, and by the end, I was digging it. I really enjoyed it. The tie-ins to I've read all of them.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to have an up in score if you've read all of the issues, and really it ties in.
Yeah, there's just a lot of care put into this book, and I thought this was just going to be a pop out and #1 thing, and just kind of be throwaway series. But I like the direction it's headed towards, and I'm on board for where this goes. I think.
Yeah, and the thing that I had, and I know that it's not the same deal, but I actually have read Return of Wolverine, and that's garbage.
Yeah.
And so with that,
this is my Wolverine title at the moment.
And with that, so when I read this, not really having that much of a background going into it, especially recently, reading Old Man Logan, which is funny because we've mentioned that me and Eric were actually in an issue of Old Man Logan, a while back. So not going in, I just thought, I hope this isn't just thrown out there like that Return of Wolverine, because I'm not enjoying that at all. And I really enjoyed that. And again, we also, we say a lot that we're going to vote when we have a #1 and things like that. But my vote is to keep talking about this.
Yeah, I like it
keep
a lot.
Reading it. As long as we're going to keep reading it, we might as well talk about it.
Yep.
So, yeah. The next one, we may have a short leash on, and it's what I was looking forward to so much. Ironheart #1, written by Eve Ewing, art by Kevin Labranda, Luciano Vecchio, Matt Milla, and VC's Clayton Cowles. The start of the Ironheart series was a big disappointment for me. I wanted fun and excitement. I got a lot of talking and standing around. Sure, Eve Ewing shows how smart Riri is, but also shows that she's not very nice and not much else. For a first, and like Star Trek. I don't like Star Trek. You don't like Star Trek or Star Wars.
No, anything. Get stars.
You tell me
here.
Star Wars. I'm in. How about Battle of the Network Stars? You like that?
That was a little before my time.
How about Starcade? You ever watch that? Starcade?
No, not Stargate. I told you.
I like Stargate. That's one of Eric's favorites.
In the sky at this point.
How about the Dallas Stars? You like them? They have a Stanley Cup, right?
The Dallas Stars. Deep-seated hate. We just hit it. I'm on the couch now.
How about the Dallas Cowboys? They have a star on their helmet. I hate them.
They beat the Bills twice in Super Bowls. Don't like them either.
Doesn't work out for you, these stars. Nothing. You don't like the Kardashians? They're big stars.
No.
You're not a big fan?
God. I am not a Kardashian fan.
You don't like those?
I get mad when they're on the TV in my house.
Starfish. You like those? You ever eat?
I like Starro.
Okay. Do you ever eat starfish? You ever have that? As a one of my buddies had it. He said it's not very good.
Yeah,
he's also a guy who had.
Doesn't look like it has any taste.
No, that's the thing. He also had chicken feet the one time. He was all into these fried chicken feet, and then basically realized there's not much meat on the chicken feet.
You're better off just going wings, buddy. We got
really.
that down to a science.
I said he taught me a rhyme that I will take through life. There ain't no meat on the chicken feet. That's how I go through life. For a first issue with a cool character, this wasn't as new reader friendly as it should have been, and even knowing it was an oversized #1. It was such a chore to get through. I really had a problem. Plus, she's a giraffe. And she's not a Dracula.
She looks very giraffe-y on the first page.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
She looks inside, but
yeah. Oh, and I'm telling you, the art in this I really liked. This is another one of those.
That's where a lot of my score is going to come from.
And I'll tell you, I know that this is a Brian Michael Bendis character, and like Stars, you love Brian Michael Bendis, but going with this though, you're going to give it a clean slate. You're going to go with it. But the issue, it's a weird deal. Like you said, it kind of does a weird way of trying to tell you who Riri is in an odd way. Like she likes Star Trek and things like that, kind of relying on the fact that she's been a character that's been out for a while. So, but I really thought that this is one of those books that you really should have really set up. Number one, that this book will be exciting. Number two, that you would like Riri and maybe want to become her friend. But she comes off. I don't want to use certain terms, but boy, she comes off as mean. She comes off as
real mean.
She comes off as a non-people person that just is not fun.
And I think what they try to do is play it off like she's real guarded because of everyone she's lost.
That's what they're going with.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't with me. And just this whole idea. And she is at MIT. She has her lab. We know this if you know the character. And just an aside, where we talk about this a lot on the DC podcast of what type of books are those type of books. Old Man Logan, Dead Man Logan. That's a Brandon book. That's Wolverine. You're in.
Through and through.
A character like Riri, that's when I'm in. Like a lot of people, this is one of a book that I'm sure people that have, diversity in their name, will have a fit about.
Yeah, just not like it based on title name.
These are the books that I am drawn to. This Unstoppable Wasp. Now, they don't always work out for me. They really don't. Moon Girl. These are the type of deals. Gotham Academy over at DC and stuff like that. So I am the target audience for a thing like this. And right away, I was bored. I actually was like, boy, this is just that I don't like Riri the way she's presented here. That it's more that
either. And it's a missed opportunity they could almost play it off like a Saved by the Bell dean student relationship where they go back and forth and have a rocky but relationship at least. And it's just like she's just mean to authority. She's mean to strangers, mean to everybody.
He's a jerk. She's mean. These poor people who are there and they're dignitaries and things like that
have to suffer the awkwardness of dealing with it all.
And so by the end of this, and this book's getting rave reviews, and I think there's that back and forth with a character like this in a book like this, that there are going to be some people who, I hate to say it, are going to give it overly positive scores just because of what it is. I want to love it. I really do. But you get Eve Ewing, and I think the whole thing through this, you pointed out that they want to make it so that she's guarded because of all the people she lost, her dad, her stepdad, her friend, all that stuff. But Eve Ewing also wants to show you how smart she is. And that's the best thing of Riri is she's a genius, and she does make this tech, but it's not fun. No. You have her. She is a tech genius. And the biggest thing you get is her showing off this tech, explaining it in a way that's not in layman's terms, and it's just boring to read. And I think Eve Ewing is a poet. And she didn't even know it, but she's a poet. And I think that a lot of times when people jump in on books like this, and I don't know, I'm not aware of her doing a lot of comics, but she's over explaining everything. It's too wordy.
Not letting good art do any work.
And like I'm telling you, like just in a scene where you have Riri there trying to explain how she makes these gadgets and things, it is over the top. I'm running analytics on my own behaviors, weaknesses, even my dreams. I want to synthesize an AI system that will serve as an effective complement too. And she's just, I understand she's smart.
Even the bad guy, when we start hitting the bad guy, he's doing the same exact thing.
And that's the other problem is when you have this bad guy show up, same voice. That Riri to me does not have a unique voice in this. It's just kind of, okay, she's saying lines to show how smart she is.
She doesn't sound like a college student. No, they try, but it doesn't come off that way.
And you end up with an idea where you have Eve Ewing who wants to, she's going to defeat this guy who used sonics and things like that.
He's actually a cool villain.
Yes, he looks cool. He looks like a black and white Spider-Man.
Shows up in are really really interesting, and
Yeah.
they're done well. So if you ever, get 5 minutes, read one of those, I
Okay,
think you'd
yeah.
like it. But he's not fun here.
No, and he's there, and she is going to use her smarts to defeat him more than her tech. You know that whole deal where she figures out, okay, I can shut down the power grid, which shuts down his and it goes through this. It just goes on and on. It just goes on and on and on. And I'll tell you, if you're paging through it, there's a point where she ends up when the lights go out, when she shuts out the lights, she's got the giraffe neck again when she goes, oh, the fight is over, huh? You got giraffe neck.
There it is, yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, the whole deal is it ends with her bringing him down and him saying, you know what, we're a lot alike. You don't realize this. Here, have this disc. She goes off, and now she's thinking back at her parents. She's thinking back, all this stuff. She has a fidget spinner in the art, which nobody has those anymore, believe me. My kids said, Logan told me that if you get caught dead, you have a fidget spinner, and you might as well just start punching yourself because you're going to get beat up.
The schools won that battle because they allowed them in the classrooms, which made them no longer cool.
Yep, nope, nobody thinks they're cool anymore, but she has one. And she ends up getting a call from her mother's friend's son, who's like, hey, what's going on? It's a friend of hers, but nothing that she really thought he would call. She's like, where'd you get the number? We're like, be honest. Like, oh, my mom was told, that I should call you. And she's like, I don't need that. But then he's like, hey, what's that visor there?
Yeah.
And then you lost me again. Because he's like, oh, it's cosplay. And you probably think that's nerdy, right? And she's really mean. And he's like, no.
She has two temperatures here: super hot,
super hot, and super cold. Yes. Cold as ice. Yeah, it's cosplay. You don't like it. And he's like, no, I do. I really do like I like Star Trek. I'm a big fan. And they end up bonding with that because they're both Star Trek nerds and like Deep Space Nine, right? So underrated. I'm like, really? And the best is who Cisco is on this Deep Space Nine? No. I do, and I felt bad that I did afterwards. I'm like, really? Why do I know? Next thing you know, and believe me, he's not singing the thong song.
You throw some Next Generation characters out there. I have a vague recollection of them, but Deep Space Nine, that got changed quick.
I just made a Cisco thong song joke, and you didn't even laugh at me.
Listen,
the thong song, Cisco.
I love the Cisco song. There's no joking about that.
There's no joke. You don't joke. There's only two things you don't joke about: the Buffalo Bills and Cisco's thong song.
That's right.
Isn't that the national anthem of Buffalo?
Only during the wintertime though.
Yeah, really. I see those people at the games. Those crazy people. But yeah,
crowd.
And so you get an extended 6 pages of, Jay-Z's this, and then it's that, and this. It just goes back and forth.
The references here are okay, so I think they're of interest to the writer, but they're not of interest to current college age students.
I'm telling you right now, there's no way. I have an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old in the house right now. And the other day, they were talking about and they're all into rap. They all love rap. So the other day, they're sitting there arguing. And here's old me, the old head, as they were calling me. They're like, oh, really? Like, you like the Jay-Z? I think I'm being cool. Yeah. You like the Jay-Z's, don't you? Like M&M's, the peanut M. You like M&M? And they're like, no way. They're so old. We like
dads. They want
like 6'9". I'm sitting there. I'm like 6'9". And then the next thing I know, that guy's in jail.
Yeah, he's in jail for being
he's in big trouble. And then the other one is you don't even know. I like ASAP Rocky. I'm like, I don't know what you just called me, but you better watch it there, kids.
Don't tell
your father.
Anything up.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there like, really? And so I read this. I'm like, oh, you have, what's her name? Eve Ewing. I don't know how old she is, but she's kind of going.
She's my age by her interests and what she's throwing out there.
I'm surprised we didn't get a little Cisco thong song in here.
Yeah.
Been cool. But and they're like Jay-Z, this, and also that's the best thing too, because in a veiled reference of Tribe Called Quest, I'm sitting there. She's like, really? You don't even listen to the Sugar Hill Gang? What you with nowadays? I'm like, really? Tribe. I love Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah, I think Tribe's great.
You know,
Yeah, Q-Tip.
I love Q-Tip. He has one of the best voices, but I don't know that she'd be. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
We don't know college
No,
kids.
we don't. Maybe it's all coming back around. Oldies
Maybe it
rap
is.
is good
Next
now
thing
again.
you know,
You
and
know?
Run DMC's in. We're listening to My Adidas, one of my favorite bands of all time, and that's not a joke. They are one of my favorite bands. But yeah, so it ends then with her having a really nice time. Ends up stopping. You know, they end up having to go to bed. And like, all right, we'll go to bed. All right, you know, maybe we'll talk tomorrow. It seems like this is starting a friendship that might become more at the end. Then when you do have Riri there, goes up to her, you know, the suit and say, talk to you tomorrow. Now she herself has a giraffe neck. What's going on? She's there, and then ends up where her friend Natalie is a AI ghost.
Yep. I think this is the AI she was having developed in the background, and this is the image that it pops out in.
Seems very kind of like, oh, what's, and it was pointed out earlier where you had these dignitaries talking to her about things and like, hey, you know, you got that Iron Man type suit. You know what? Do you have like an AI like Friday? And I thought when they said that, I'm like, it's a really odd thing for somebody to ask when they're just there looking at a lab. It was very odd the way it was spelled out, but that's why, because she's like, yeah, I'm working on AI, but I don't have a name. Again, you do need this. In a book like this, I am not a fan of a singular character that has nobody to talk to. So
that was a lot of the problem in this issue is her own narration was what she was thinking about doing, and then she's just yelling it out on the page.
And then the worst too is she would yell it out and then say to herself, why am I so crazy? And so this will solve the problem
of that
there. So yeah, she'll have her friend as the AI.
I actually like that cliffhanger. That it wasn't bad, you know. For after slogging through this issue, I was like, all right, let's cheer things up next issue and get into something you know, fun, just more down to earth.
Oh, I want the character, and I like Riri because I like Riri. I mean, yeah, she happens to be in, you know, a girl who took over for Iron Man, things like that. But I like Riri. I didn't like Riri in this. I didn't like the way she was being played. I didn't like her voice in this. But yeah, maybe it's because she didn't have anybody to work off of, and now she will. And again, I'm not going to give this an inflated score because it's a #1. I'm not going to give it an inflated score because of what the character is or represents or whatever. I love Riri. And it's a disappointment for me. It's kind of like the same thing going on with G. Willow Wilson going over to Wonder Woman. And people are like, oh, man, G. Willow Wilson. I love G. Willow Wilson. I think she is great. That Wonder Woman right now is almost to the point of being garbage. It's not, I'm not impressed by it. And I'm more upset. And I'm a little more down on it because of what I did expect. And that's the same with this. I really was expecting fun. I really was expecting, you know, I know Riri's smart. Obviously she is. I mean, she was, so you don't have
her dorm room.
You don't have to, you know, we did that. We've already had that. And if you're going to set up the character, set up stuff with that yes, maybe the first issue, me and you will be like, oh man, this is a lot of recap and things like that. But at least it would set other people up. A lot of people going into this, if you've never, you know, read any Riri and don't know about her, I'm afraid that they're going to think like, boy, she's not very fun. She's not very nice. She's angry. She's doing this. So it's okay, but again, I'm going 6. I'm going a 6. I can go down to a 5.5. I really do like the art, except the giraffe neck. But I like the art. But there's points. The pacing is off. There's a lot of problems I thought with this as a first issue. But I'm hoping the next issue rectifies that and we start going. But I'm a little worried. But what would you give it?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I liked it more than Fantastic Four, so I'm not going to hit it with a 5-ish score. I'm going to give it a 6 as well. But I had just some problems with how Clash is portrayed because he's more of like a conflicted villain. Like he'll attack other villains and doesn't always do things purely out of evil. Like there's always a good intention behind it.
And in this
written out a character,
and he's just thrown in here because Eve Ewing wanted to have somebody that was really smart
evil organization.
And really smart, and ended up getting pushed aside, even though they were smart, and they're not going to see you for what you are. And she is dealing with that. But even the deal where you have the dean, and that seems to be where you're going to have this conflict going on. but by the end of this, there should be no conflict because she saved the day. And I guarantee you're still going to have this conflict. And there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
So
that was, I mean, because I like Clash as a character, so that bugged me a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really know him, so reading this, I didn't care. I thought that he was just, and even just to end it, that you do end up, like I said, where Riri is figuring out how to defeat Clash with, a lot of, but it's so convoluted. All the things, it's not really, and it's over-explained. It's
whenever he makes a move, he explains it in like 8 word bubbles. That her counter is 8 more word bubbles. It's so
almost
weird.
like Eve Ewing, isn't going to let the art go and do its job, but also thought that we wouldn't be able to figure out what's going on as well. Like we were really treated.
Give me a little credit. I'm not.
When people ask me, when people say to me, like when we get upset about, say, Tom King's Batman or whatever, I'm like, man, I need these details. What do you want? Somebody to hold your hand? This is an issue where they held your hand. I don't want that.
No, me either. I'm on the other. I'm in between the two. Yeah, right.
Like Cisco.
In the middle. The over-explaining drove me nuts as well. And I think just this type of book should include more fun, like you said, the Moon Girls, the Miss Marvels.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that I want. Yeah.
The Gwenpool, but just more fun injected.
Yeah, just fun. Just have she's a young character. Have a young kind of energy to it. And it didn't. She's like an old man. Old man Riri.
I know, like Riri yells at clouds coming up next.
See it at in the next issue as well. They have a scene where Riri shakes her fist at the young kids playing in the yard. Get off my lawn!
Grass,
Get off my lawn, kids! And they're like, kids, we're 5 years older than you.
Don't you know my dad was killed? This lawn is precious.
My dad's killed, and I'm listening to Jay-Z and Tribe Called Quest. Don't give me your Post Malones.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we have one last book. What is it?
Yeah, this is Uncanny X-Men #3, written by Matthew Rosenberg, Kelly Thompson, Ed Brisson. Guess who this issue? I don't know which one. And then art by Ladair Sinar, Rochelle Rosenberg, and VC's Joe Carmanga. Uncanny X-Men brings the characters more together this issue, finally giving us a big reveal we've, I guess, been waiting for. But I can't help but compare this to Extinction right now, which after 3 issues, I was much more on board with. The issue's main hurting point is it suffers from a lot of repetition, making me already tired of this story told in a weekly format. Very weekly, and I'm still just a Wolverine fan.
That was going to be my joke. The deal is, I don't know. I will have to pay attention. Is it possible? Because on the cover, you obviously have the writers, I believe, in alphabetical order, but on the inside, you do not. And maybe that's a tip. I haven't paid attention, so I don't know if Matthew Rosenberg was at the top before. If they're doing that, it'd be nice to know, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I know they're not all 3 chipping in.
No, and this happened before. Like a lot of times, you'll have like these big events like a World's End at one point at DC way back, and you'd have like 7 writers listening. 7 people writing this issue. I'd like to know, and just it wouldn't change my score. I just would like to know so that we can
like any group project. There's 6 people doing nothing and 1 person.
Yeah, and I just want to be able to be like, oh, here we go with the Kelly Thompson again.
Yeah,
but or
at least know what issues to look forward to. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we would know after this issue. And looking that forward to anything. And I think that I'm already getting a little fatigued by this. I think that this weekly deal, very weekly, so you stole my deal. I think that it's starting to get to me where I went to read this. When we read the first one, even the oversized deal that I thought was 256 pages, almost had a heart attack. I was so excited to read this. This is going to be the only other time that I started off reading an X-Men book from issue 1 of a run was Joss Whedon's X-Men. And that was way before I read comics. That was because I was a Joss Whedon fan. I love Buffy and Angel and all that. So I did read that first arc of that, and I loved it. I thought it was great. And so this was going to be my time to shine. It's basically like, oh man, I went back and read a bunch of stuff, but this is happening now.
The time for you to pick your obscure X-Men character.
That's right. Yeah. The next thing I know, I can tell everybody that Glob has always been my favorite character. And
you're just like what he looks up on the internet.
Yeah. No, what? You're not a Pixie and Rockslide fan? Pfft. I'll
It,
tell
it
you.
reminded me of Eric just alone in his room on Chatterbait.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. He has it set up so when Jess comes in, he's smart enough to not have the computer face
He's
the
got like
door.
the NCAA button, the
Oh
boss
yeah,
button.
yeah. He hits it. So yeah, with this you have, you know, it's just not that great. It really isn't. We had that big cliffhanger last issue of Legion showing up, and again, I'm getting a little excited from that. I have no real, horse in the race, but yeah,
No,
that's
neither.
kind of exciting to me. So I'm going every time I read it too. When they have the first page where they have the setup of the team, I'm like, yep, there ain't no Wolverine there. Brandon's out. But yeah, so you start off, but when you start off in Montana with the dinosaurs still, I'm like, really? We're
And they
still
seem to
doing
wrap
that?
this up without much problem at all. Like,
Yeah.
we're just freezing them, and that ice is going to stay frozen for how
It's
long?
another ice
Forever?
age. That's what killed the dinosaurs the first time. Yeah. And you even have where,
And Bishop
yeah,
blows this thing's legs
Bishop
off.
blows it, blows it up and then goes, and you have that little deal where he picks up this God hates Muty sign and hands it to this
Here's your sign, sir.
Thanks. And again, the biggest thing about this series so far, we're 3 issues in, obviously, and I can even see that it's cliched and it's a bit of every. But the thing is, to me, I know I don't want a jokey book, but kind of be a little more aware that you're doing this. You know what I mean? Like even like a wink, wink at it, but it's not. It's pretty much straight up, but I'm not really enjoying it. And then you realize that pretty much this dinosaur attack and all these people and even the Madroxes multiplying and them going to that is pretty much just a way to get most of the X-Men out of the mansion. So when Legion goes, there's just the rookies and Glob. And so when Legion goes, he's like, hey, I'm here. Don't you want to save the world? You have this whole deal. He ends up, you don't know who's bad, good, or whatnot yet of the whole deal, but it's starting to get a little bit like the young Cable in the Extermination book, where I just want to know the story. Just get to it. Who's the bad? Is Madrox, he's being controlled by Legion, but he wants Kitty Pryde. Like all these things going. I just want to get on with it. And I said before last week that I think that as this goes on, this is just going to kind of go along until we finally get the ongoing series when it becomes the regular Matthew Rosenberg book. And I'm kind of wishing that was now, but not that I'm saying Matthew Rosenberg is going to be the best thing ever. This story coming every week, it's not doing anything for me. It's not making me like the team.
There's nothing in each issue to make you want to come back either.
No,
I haven't got a cliffhanger I've been excited about, and even the reveal at the end of this one, like it's supposed to make you excited, but it's just a reverse play on another X-Men story we've read 100 times.
Every X-Men story and when I know that, there's trouble.
Yeah,
I don't know that much, and this is like a greatest hits done again. It's a cover version of the greatest hits. I'd rather have the real greatest hits. I can go and read those, but in the meantime, you have Psylocke and Jean Grey. They kind of team up to try to get all these multiple Madroxes out of the way.
Every problem in comics is solved by holding hands.
Yeah, holding hands. And in the meantime, you do set up the deal where hey, none of these are primes. So you know what that means? It's slaughter time. And they go, you have X-23. Laura's just
stabbing them in the head.
Yeah, just going to town on them. But they're trying to knock them out to see what's going on. And when they do, they realize like right away, oh, you know what? It's underneath here is where we have to go. Beneath us is the source of this. And they're going to go down to get Jamie Prime there, who's all tied up and he's chained up. In the meantime, Legion is kind of revealing that he's the bad guy he's fighting them at the mansion. They're trying to get everybody back there. Beast is just walking through the park. That was the best. He's in Central Park just walking around. And he gets called back. He's like, yeah, I'm almost there. And you have these rookies who also, they're not likable either.
No.
You know what I mean?
All they do is complain about being shoved to the side.
Yeah, that's all they do.
You guys don't do anything good to be called into action. What have you done ever?
Yeah. And so basically, and they're getting their behinds handed to them.
Yep.
And so they get there and at this, they have hey, you guys make sure people don't get hurt. These protesters are out here. Make sure, what do we crowd control now? Yeah, that's what you are. Get
That's what
to
you're
it.
good for.
Yeah. Because old rock pile or whatever, he's going through the
Glob,
wall.
and Glob, he's just doing
Glum.
nothing. He's just
And then
got
Glob's
bulging eyes.
I know you hate us, but we don't want you to get killed. I'm like, really? This is the whole deal. Well, what ends up being that you
Put
have
some clothes on, Glob.
and you have Legion. And what this ends, yeah, really, what this ends up doing to me is like you end up going one issue and okay, they're the bad guy, or we want to know who the bad guy is because somebody has captured Kitty Pryde and that. So okay, then the next issue, like, okay, Legion, he's showing up, he's gonna be the bad guy. At the end of this, he's like, man, I'm just here to save you from them. And we have another cliffhanger that, like you said, I'm like, okay, there you go. You have, old man Magneto and then things coming, alternate deal where he's there because he is there to help everybody with Omega Red and Blob and Angel. And like, why are you with them, Angel? Well, what do you mean? We're here to save everyone. And he's like, I'm here with my horsemen of peace. Magneto says, I'm like, oh,
I rolled my eyes so hard when it just was not a well set up. It wasn't well like executed, and just I don't know. I'm just not excited by these.
I'm just not. And again, I am not. I'll plainly put it this way: I am not an X-Men fan, but I want to be. That's why I'm reading this. I'm reading this to become one, and this isn't doing it for me.
Yeah, I want to like them like I like that cartoon in the 90s. You know, when I was growing up, that was what I woke up on Saturday mornings. That was the reason for my existence, and I just haven't liked it as much since then.
It's funny. I watched that way later. Yeah, I was way older. It was one of those things, and I have watched it, and I ended up making it as my second oldest son claim that he liked it, and that's why we watched it, so that I wouldn't get made fun of by Tanya, my wife. And she saw through that because then he was not interested, but I did like it. But yeah, I wanted like I want to have an X-Men book that I'm excited. And why is it that this is weekly? Very weekly, and that I would love to be like, man, this is so awesome, this is so good, and we're getting it every week. It ends up I see it, I'm like, oh man, I forgot this was weekly.
And we can't even get like the campiness of a Batman Eternal.
That we can have something to. I really through this whole issue, I can't find anything to really even have fun with. I really can't.
I liked Bishop shooting the dinosaur's legs off, and that was just ironically, to be honest.
I like the crazy hair that Legion gets. Oh, it's crazy. But yeah, and then at the end,
smashing his head on the floor. It's a hell of a way to do your hair.
Once he did that, I was like, what is he doing? But yeah, at the end, then what you have is Magneto's like, oh, we're here, the Horsemen of Peace, and we're here, the X-Men must end, because he says, we're here to stop all war, and all war starts and ends with the X-Men, so we're going to do it, and blows up the mansion. The mansion just blows to high heaven, and how many times have you seen that? And
3 this week, I think.
So I don't need this, but I'm going to give this. This is probably my least favorite issue of the week, and I'm going to give it a straight up 5. I like the art enough, but at points it actually got a little muddy near the end when there's an art change. It got a little wonky. And again, the other thing is why I know that everybody knows these characters more than me, it seems, but you're not even giving us like an idea of, while they're fighting, what they're doing or what's the best thing about them, or pointing out why, Laura, who I do know, why she's so cool or great, or why people love Nightcrawler, or, Jubilee so popular. Then why all these things.
Everyone loves Jubilee.
Psylocke. I didn't have any point where I ended up saying like, oh man, this is why everybody loves Psylocke, or this is why everybody likes Night. And really, then you have Pixie, Rockslide, Armor. You're doing nothing with them except making them unlikable. So I just nonsense. But I'm giving it a 5. What about you?
I also flat 5 for this one. It's not, the special 5, but just like I enjoyed it even less than Fantastic Four. Like there's nothing that excites me. Even the cliffhanger doesn't really get me going. None of that. At least I got a wedding to look forward to in Fantastic Four, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. When does this end? End of January, I guess?
It goes in, I think
It just
February
feels
is
like
when
so
it
far
starts. Yeah,
away.
I know, and just over and over. We'll see. Maybe it'll pick up.
I really
Maybe
hope it
because
does.
this would be, as far as we can tell, if they're doing one issue, this is everybody has one issue under their belt now. Maybe it'll pick up. And again, I know that you don't want delays, and it is a weekly book, so you have to do this thing. But I don't know. Maybe there's too many cooks in the stew.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that makes it a little more generic than actually helping out to expand the story, because everybody kind of has to pull back everything they're doing to kind of jive with what the others are doing. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, there's something missing.
I'm just not a fun.
Some tender love and care.
Yeah, a little salt and some love and tender love and care. But yeah, that is it. That's the end of the podcast. My book of the week was Amazing Spider-Man number 10. But what was yours?
Mine was Dead Man Logan.
Yep. Yeah. And those were my two favorite of the week. And I suggest anybody go pick those up. They're pretty good. Especially Dead Man Logan is the first issue. And
again, I mean, both with equal amount of laughs and action, like a little bit of everything in there for you.
And then again, to really point out the deal, you are an Old Man Logan fan. You've read everything going up to that and loved it. And I haven't, and I loved it. So it was really well done for both newcomers and old heads like you. But we don't usually do it, but I'm going to point out books that may be on next podcast. Now, we are talking about maybe starting to have 2 episodes a week. So that we can kind of,
some of these number ones coming out all the
number ones, have a couple more books, but also, have more time to invest into doing it. So instead of saying, we can't do all the books and we'll just have 3 an episode, I would rather us maybe have 2 episodes a week so that we can start getting more and more into it, and then kind of settle down things and kind of go that way. But if people think that's nonsense, you can let us know. I don't know. Usually it's weird. You have a fine line. And this happened with the DC podcast, where we were doing 5-hour podcasts and people were like, oh man, that's pretty long, but I'll deal with it. Then we started doing 13-hour podcasts, and it was as if I had held somebody hostage. I was getting notes and tweets like, how dare you have a 13-hour podcast? How you jerks. I'm like,
you expect somebody to dedicate themselves to listen to
and this? Then, of course, as you know, started dialing it back a little. Now we have 6 hours, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And now we're getting crap for that. I tell you, if you are listening or haven't listened to our DC podcast, if you are somebody who is just listening to the Marvel one and want to go over and want to know what it's like to have possibly a 10-hour podcast, tune in on Sunday. We have 18 books that we're talking about, and boy, I actually think it's going to be one of the longest episodes ever. So we'll see. I always say that, and it doesn't end up. But if you want to know what a 13-hour podcast looks like, you can go over to our DC deal. You'll be able to find a couple. We had we had months of the 10-hour plus podcast, and every week, very weekly. But next week, here's some of the books that we will probably talk about. Doctor Strange number 9. That's started. I'm telling you,
that comes out, I feel like, every week too.
Yeah, I'm saying we go to say issue 12 or when this next arc ends, and then we decide if we keep going with that.
5-issue trades at Marvel. Remember?
Yeah, that. I know, but it doesn't seem like this issue and the next will end a arc, because they just started what has seemed to be the next one. We'll see. And maybe we'll be lucky and Mark Waid will get taken off that book and somebody good will get on it. We have Killmonger number 1. That's exciting. The Defenders Namor number 1. The Defenders, the Immortal Hulk number 1. And I want to read those because I'm looking forward to the Defenders book as well. The Immortal Hulk number 10. So there's 2 Hulk books coming out. Uncanny X-Men number 4, obviously. Venom number 9. Winter Soldier number 1, that in the news, if people didn't know, that was coming out as a regular ongoing and now has been pulled back to just be a mini series. And X-Men The Exterminated number 1, which I don't even know what that is. So
I think that is a tie-in or
to Extermination.
To Extermination.
That's what you would think, right?
Yeah.
Or
it's a Manship issue.
No, believe me.
Trick issue.
No. Manship now sends me. I get an email a day from Manship who writes me in and he'll say, Venom Annual, that's like one of those ones that tricks me, isn't it? I'm like, no, it's an annual, man. And then he'll write, man, nuclear winter. That sounds important. I'll get that. I'm like, oh man, Chip.
He's all reversed.
He is almost like the whole idea is you had one job. You had one job to not be fooled, and you always get. He always. I'm telling you, I'm looking right now in the. I wanted to find this last one where he's like, huh. I guess this is one of those issues that's supposed to fool me, right? It's Batman 58. Why is that going to fool you, man? Yeah. He's crazy.
He got the variant cover. He's all confused.
He is crazy.
No title on it.
Crazy fella. But yeah, twice I think this week he has told me about an issue that he thought was like trying to fool him. He got burned bad by that Dark Side special, the Dark Side War special.
These Justice League Aquaman ones are probably just ruining his life right now.
Yeah, he loves everything though. He's a positive guy. He really, I'm telling you, of all these books, he probably loved every one tonight. And every other one. He's a very positive. The guy liked Convergence, for crying out loud. And then not only that, it's bad enough that if you're a DC fan that you like Convergence, he liked the Telos book after Convergence. That's the worst. I mean, what is he thinking? But,
what is my name?
Yeah, oh, the worst. But yeah, there we go. We're done. And yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Like I said, we may start popping up twice a week. And if that is the case, I believe that the second show would come out probably around Saturday. That's kind of in the middle of things, you know, a Wednesday and then a Saturday, kind of go with that thing. And then we can start expanding the books, kind of talk a little more about some other things that me and you are starting to enjoy, that are just kind of side deals. Now, I'm telling you, I can't wait till Spider-Geddon is over. I'm excited
for that to be over with too now.
Yeah, but even like I'm just saying next week, some other books that are coming out that we haven't talked, we don't talk about, we haven't talked about Deadpool in a while.
Yeah.
Things like that maybe we can
I'd like to throw that one, give it
throw that. And that the Saturday show might be one of those. It's like the B team. It's the
second chance show.
It is. It's the second chance. So we could kind of throw in stuff like that, maybe even get involved in like the return of Wolverine stinkers like that. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how that is. But yeah, that is the end of the podcast. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next show.